Good evening to all, and thank you for coming. It's a pleasure welcoming you to St. Andrew's Greek Orthodox Cathedral for this Christmas Carol concert. And we're very privileged to have with us once again the Mosaic choir, who had come here a few years ago now to perform a similar concert. And I think we'd said back then that we hoped it would be an annual event, but obviously because of the current circumstances with the lockdowns and everything, we haven't had those opportunities the last couple of years, and so we're very happy and very privileged that we've had the opportunity this year to host the choir, who will share with us a variety of carols from around the world. And it's something that really captures the spirit of Christmas, because what happens with the birth of Christ is that the truth of God's revelation initially had only been given to one nation, to one people. And with the birth of Christ, that promise is opened up to the entire world. And as Christ says, my house will be a house of prayer for all nations. And so this concert, which features hymns from all over the world in a variety of different languages, in English and Greek and Russian, Ukrainian, Georgian, and many more, expresses the universality of the gospel message, the universality of the promise of salvation that is heralded with the birth of Christ at Christmas, and the universality of our Orthodox Church. And so once again, I want to thank the choir for coming to be with us tonight, and all of you for being here.
Together to be with you in fellowship, to be singing things of prayer, of joy, of wonder, and we hope you enjoy them. There are programs scattered around. There's probably enough for everyone. If you don't have one now, you can pick one up at the end. That was a French carol which is asking the Lord to come. We're excited. We want the Lord to come at Christmas. And we're now going to sing a carol from America. And it uses words from Vespers from the Sunday before the Nativity of Christ. So these are words from the Orthodox service, but not in a chant style, not in a choir style as such. It's for concerts, it's not for singing in church, but the words are from church. So listen out for them, and I hope you enjoy it. It's by a modern Orthodox composer. He fell asleep just 5 years ago in 2016. And I think this is a really beautiful carol in English to spread the Orthodox liturgical words to a new generation, a new congregation.
With all the world.
going to sing a few songs which mention the cradle and sleeping and the Mother of God. And we will start with a Greek carol, Anarchos Theos, and it has a chorus which repeats words. You'll hear it, erurem, erurem. Doesn't really mean anything exactly that word. It's a lullaby word to try and soothe the baby, to make the baby quiet. And then we'll sing another Romanian carol, La Vifleem, which talks about the Mother of God and her life with the child in Bethlehem. And then the Coventry Carol, which is a really historic English carol from the 15th century, so it's 500 years old. And it shows how far back the tradition of carols goes in this country, so we hope you enjoy that. But first, a Greek carol.
Erurem, 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 not sure if that's the best song to precede a story because I'm quite breathless at the moment. But I'm going to tell you a story about the saint whose feast day it is today. He is, of course, Saint Nicholas. Great to hear from the audience. And the song that's going to follow this story is, of course, a song about Saint Nicholas. It's a Serbian song called Ok Tok To. And I'd like to share with you some of the stories you probably have already heard many, many times that have been passed down from one generation to the next that have made Saint Nicholas one of the best known saints, the most loved saints. We all feel a very close relationship with Saint Nicholas. The whole world does, because he's, of course, the original, the real Santa Claus. So many people have his name. Where I come from in Greece, so many ports are named after him and boats. He's everywhere and he marks so much of our lives. So in order to understand where this tradition of gift giving comes from, which actually on the 6th of December, which is today, traditionally in Georgian England, this would be the day you would exchange presents. It would be the beginning of the Christmas season. And in many countries around the world and around Europe, you should be exchanging presents. So it's not too late. You can still do something this evening if you like. And in many countries, people expect to find gold or sacks of gold, maybe not real gold, but chocolate gold in their shoes or in their socks, or maybe some oranges if you're not as wealthy, in their shoes or in the socks on the 6th of December. So it is a really important time of the year and the beginning of the Christmas season. And to really understand where all this tradition of gift giving comes from, we need to go back in time to discover some of the stories around St. Nicholas's life. So let's travel back in time. About 1,700 years. That takes us to which century? What year? About 300, 4th century. About 270 AD. So you're all very close. Let's go to Asia Minor, to modern-day Turkey, to a very thriving seaside town near Myra called Patara, and let's meet a couple called Nona and Theophanis, a Greek-speaking couple. They have everything. They're wealthy, they've got a big house, they've got land, they've got fields, they've got crops, they've got cattle, but they don't have a child. It said they waited 30 years and prayed for a child. But finally a child was born to them, a little boy. I imagine him round, I don't know why, and very kind of robust. And he was given the name Nicholas. Apparently he was named after his uncle, who was an abbot, a bishop nearby. And he was, from a very young age, very generous with all that he had. He was apparently a very faithful boy and a very bright little boy. And the years passed, and unfortunately a plague came to the land, a disease, and his parents became very ill, and Nicholas was orphaned, still very young, and he was taken on by his uncle, Nicholas, and brought up in the faith, and he had all this wealth that he had inherited and was keen to give to those in need. And his way of giving it, the ultimate gift giving, was to give it secretly so that he wouldn't get any credit for it. So he went about trying to find who it was that needed him the most. And one of the earliest stories that was written about St. Nicholas, which you may have seen depicted in frescoes, is the story of the golden coins and the three girls, which you may or may not have heard. So there was a merchant. He lost a lot of his money. He was poor, and he was desperate for money. He was begging for money, not for himself, but for his three daughters. Because in those days, if you had daughters, you needed them to be married. Because if you didn't, they wouldn't be under anyone's protection. And so you needed to marry them off. But in order to marry them off, you needed a dowry. I've got a very good sort of co-storyteller somewhere in the audience there. Thank you very much. You needed a dowry. And so these girls, if they weren't going to have a dowry, they wouldn't get married and they'd be sold to slavery or worse. Well, Nicholas hears about this. He follows them to their home one day, I imagine after a day of begging. They're really tired, their socks are wet, and they go home and they hang up their socks and put their shoes to dry, and they go to sleep. Oh, can we have some audience interaction here? Yeah, they go to sleep. Because actions speak louder than words. So while they're fast asleep, Nicholas goes to the window, he checks, yep, no one's looking. The window's quite high, so he needs to kind of take a swing, and he throws a bag of gold through the window, and it lands somewhere near, in, around the shoes and socks that are hanging up to dry. And of course the girls wake up. The eldest probably claimed it as her own because she thinks, well, I'm the eldest, I need to get married first. You can imagine the joy and excitement. She takes it. And so the other daughters are wondering, well, what's going to become of us? Well, the next night they go to sleep again. Look at this. I wish I had you for all my stories. This is so great. As they're fast asleep, Nicholas, once again, true to his kind of heart's desire, he gives that bag of gold in its swings into the bedroom and lands by the socks and shoes once more. The daughters wake up. The second daughter takes her gold. She knows she's safe and sound. And now it's time for the third daughter to also hope and wish and pray for her own miracle. But this time, her father wants to find out who it is that's been so generous to their family, so he can thank that person, of course. So he stays up and watches and waits. Boys, can you do a kind of watching and waiting? Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, thank you very much. You can see he's eager to know. Poor St. Nicholas, he's got no choice. He doesn't know what to do. There's many versions of what he does in this last attempt to give the gold. But at any rate, the gold comes swinging through the window. Father runs out. Youngest daughter hopefully gets the gold and it's fine. Father runs out and he catches St. Nicholas in the act. He says, it's you. I can't thank you enough. And of course St. Nicholas doesn't want to be thanked. He doesn't want to be thanked because he wants to give the glory to God. And very soon his popularity increases. Now I've got some gold coins. Philip, would you mind, because I'm supposed to stay here so that I can be heard even online. So if you wouldn't mind coming here and being Santa for St. Nicholas. So yes, thank you, St. Nicholas. As he distributes the coins, you can see why St. Nicholas was then chosen to be bishop, how he gained such popularity in the town of Myra, and he was wanted and chased by one and all, because of course coins are desired by everybody. Now, St. Nicholas is also patron saint of orphans and children and merchants who have lost their money and people who want to get married. But he's also patron saint of sailors and travellers. And as I told you, you often see his name on boats and by churches by the sea and associated with travellers, because apparently when he went or was coming back from the Holy Land, there was a terrible storm and he calmed the storm with his prayers. And everybody returned to their homeland safe and sound. Thank you. Thank you. We're clapping Philip now because I haven't quite finished. Sorry if I'm going on a bit too much. So the thing is that I want you to know is that when we in Greece used to sing Christmas carols, and in certain parts of Greece we make paper boats. In certain parts of Greece, particularly islands like Zakynthos, you make paper boats and you take the paper boats caroling and people put the coins or the special gifts in your paper boat. And this symbolises sort of the story of St. Nicholas coming into everything to do with Christmas. Oh, and a fun fact my husband told me the other day is if you look outside pawnbroker shops, you might see 3 gold coins. And again, that harks back to this story. So with great thanks to St. Nicholas for all the wonderful example he set for us, wishing you a happy feast and enjoy the next carol all about St. Nicholas.
Give them some applause.
The next couple of songs are about bells. The first one is an English carol which we will all recognise, and the sound the English bell makes is ding dong. The second is a Greek carol which describes a conversation between a little bell and the wind. The wind is encouraging the bell to find its ring again by promising that an archangel will open up the gates of Saint Sophia and her bells will ring again. The Greek bell makes a din-dang sound.
Angels singing,
partly just to give you a different sound. We're going to do a duet now, so Anna and I will sing you a Scottish lullaby.
now we are going to sing for you 2 traditional carols from Greece. The first one comes from Pontus, which is an area in northern Turkey by the Black Sea. So these carols talk about the birth of Christ and his way to the cross. The second carols come from an island in Greece, Ikaria, which some of you might know it's very famous for the longevity of its people. And that is because they know how to celebrate, and you will see why.
I don't know what happens to us after that carol from Icaria. We just sort of start charging through the carols at top speed. So we're already at the last carol now, which is one of my favourite carols. I first heard it at the monastery of Ormiglia being sung. It's a really interesting carol because it's quite unknown, and also it's kind of very self-consciously taking you through the carol singing process. So usually in Greece we knock on the door and we say "Na ta poume," and you say, how many Greeks do we have in the audience here today? Let me just teach you what you have to say. You have to say "Na ta pite." Can you say that? "Na ta pite." We say "Na ta poume." Good. I hope you can remember that, because we're going to do that in a minute. And so as soon as we get the permission to start singing, we start singing to the master and missus of the house, archondes, and we take them through the carol, sort of the story of Christmas. But then this carol goes on to say, so open up your boxes now that we've sung for you, and get your coins out for us. Bring out your golden coins. And if you don't have any golden coins, it doesn't matter. If you're not wealthy enough to give us some coins, we can have some chickens. That's fine. A couple of chickens will be great. So we've got a donations basket at the end, and we'll be asking for some coins for the monastery of Essex. Maybe there'll be more on that at the end. But you can always leave something else. And so after that, the story goes on to say that you must go to sleep as soon as we finish singing. Go right to bed, because there's a service tomorrow morning, and there is indeed a service here tomorrow morning. You see how I'm using this as an advertisement through the carol? It's actually a fantastic service because it's really early in the morning. So even if you're working, you can come to the service for St. Ambrose of Milan, starting at 5:30 in the morning and finishing at 8 o'clock. Isn't that wonderful? So please go to bed straight away so that you can run to church, the carol says, so that with great joy you can listen to the Holy Liturgy. And then we finish with this outcry, which you hear often at the end of Greek carols. "Και του χρόνου σας ευχόμαστε." The shortened version is "Και του χρόνου σας," which is like a blessing to the master and mistress of the house to live for many years, but really it's trying to say, let's meet here again next year in the same way. So we wish you a blessed Merry Christmas, and let's meet here again next year as well. And tomorrow,
Να τα πούμε. one more. We have lots more. In fact, we do have lots more. We had so many favourite carols, we couldn't possibly fit them into one evening. But we hope you have enjoyed this evening and being together in fellowship and in song. And I hope you were joining in with the ones that you knew as well. There is a collection on the way out. I'll ask for 2 volunteers to hold the baskets with the Christmassy fabric. By kind permission of Father Christian and the cathedral as a whole, all the donations will be going to the monastery of St John the Baptist in Essex. As I am sure all of you know, they give us so much support spiritually, practically, even when they aren't open and we can't visit them. But that means they need our support even more because they're not getting the regular donations that they might otherwise. So we would like to show our love to the monastery and yours through the donations in the baskets at the back as you leave. Thank you for joining us again, and thank you again to Father Christian, and I hope you have a wonderful way home and then running to church in the morning at 5:30. Thank you.
I also want to thank the choir again for all those wonderful hymns. And the beautiful things about carols is it's a way of bringing the message of the church out to the people, and also it is a way to invite the people into the church. The 5:30 thing is not a joke. We do have a service at 5:30. If you are free, then please do come. And please, if you can, leave a donation for the monastery in Essex. Like Margaret said, they've been closed for the past, since the beginning of the first lockdown, and so they're in need of our help. Like she said, because they give us so much, and so many of us are spiritually dependent on the prayers and the advice and the guidance of the fathers and mothers at the monastery. So please consider giving generously if you can, so that we can support them and help them in the work that they do. Thank you very much again. Thank you.